Hello and welcome to Cracked Open, a podcast guiding you on your journey to becoming a vessel of unconditional love. And this is your host, Beck Milonas, High Priestess, Channel, and Activator. Join me on this series as I share reflections, insights, and channel transmissions from my journey of walking the initiation path. Each episode is a unique transmission containing supportive frequencies to facilitate the deepest healing, activation, and reconnection with your soul. I invite you to open your mind and set the intention to receive this episode into your heart space. Let's go. Welcome back, beautiful souls, to another episode of Cracked Open, a podcast guiding you to become a vessel of unconditional love. I'm super excited about my beautiful guest that I have here today. He's really close to my heart. Today I have Igor Galibov. I did it. I knew I was gonna do it. Did it. So I was gonna introduce him officially with a bio, but he said I'm not giving you one. So I'm just gonna speak from my heart with Igor. We had the absolute pleasure of spending some time together at the end of last year. It was really magical. I got to spend some very close time with Igor, getting to know him, and it was a big activation for both of us. We experienced many beautiful things. We went to many beautiful places, and I'm just so excited for you guys to meet this man, because for me, he's such an embodiment of king energy. You bring this king energy, and it's rare for people to actually experience that. So welcome, Igor. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Beck. It's always a pleasure, always a divine pleasure.
Amazing. So Igor, I'll tell you a little bit about what he does. He supports people. He takes people on sacred pilgrimages. He does a lot of work with the field, with people's bodies. He's very tapped in, very tuned in. It pissed me off, actually. A lot of the time when we were hanging out, I was like, dude, stop. I don't get out of my head. So, the insights that he's going to have on where we're at collectively and what's coming through, I would listen. This man, he knows what's up. So to begin with, I'd like to ask everyone who kind of comes on here to share a little bit about themselves and their backstory. How deep you want to go into that, I'm not sure, but tell us a little bit about what were, I guess the question I want to ask is what were the foundational moments or events in your life that steered you onto the path where you are now, this beautiful masculine leader doing the work that you're doing?
So my awakening occurred in 2004. I actually ended up in Brazil. And I was in Brazil. I went there because of my mother. So she got ill, and they went to talk about a healer. So I went with her to see that healer, thinking I'm just going to leave her there. And I had a powerful awakening with one of the shamans, you can say, in Brazil. And from that moment on, I just had a very sharp awakening where I started to see, feel, and perceive energies and different dimensions. And I just kind of spent 4 years in meditation afterwards. Came back home and I just locked myself up in a room. I could not interact with friends or family. Going out with friends, it was just not connecting energetically, was off. And from that moment on, my whole life, the structure, the belief, the perception started to change. Now, this is 2004. There wasn't much about spirituality on the internet. So it was all trial and error. There wasn't much information out there. So all of the experiences that I had was basically, okay, let's try this. Let's do this. And, it was one of those days, let's go to the store. You go into a store and you come out and all this heavy energy. I'm like, oh my God. I would go home and meditate and clear it out. 2 weeks later, again, I need to go out, so it'd be okay, Walmart was like a test field for spiritual enlightenment. So the more you can hold your energy in those places, the more powerful you become. So it was okay, trial and error. So after those 4 years, I spent so many years in different types of dimensions, working with different beings, entities, traveling past life, future lives. I was so curious in the esoteric experience. I completely disconnected from the physical reality. Mm-hmm. And after 4 years of that, it was guys, you guys have money up there? They're like, no. I was like, then why you guys tell me what to do?
I love that you're fucking. I was
I
literally
was
like,
like,
ask a kid came in, like, ask him to talk about this. And I'm so glad you're talking about it because this is really up.
and that's when I shifted. It was like a whole shift. I was like, I need to balance myself out.
Mhm,
And I read the autobiography of Saint Germain,
mhm,
and it was like a paragraph or two. And there was one part I was like, wow, this guy created schools, hospitals. He was spiritual. He was wealthy. He was an alchemist. I was like, if we are not experiencing everything in this life, then we're not full potential of God.
mhm.
It's like we need to experience everything: wealth, power, health, the family, all everything that this world has to give to us, because that is how we embody ourselves. So I set out on that journey. I was like, I want to experience everything in this life,
Mm,
and not really thinking what I was wishing for. And all of that came through. So all the ups and all the downs, because
mm,
we need to get into this neutral space of being a perceiver without kind of being manipulated by the forces outside of us. So we have to find that pillar within. And that's what was my journey was about. It's like, okay, how do I find that balance within? So all the experiences in this life so far have been how to strengthen that pranic tube of light, how to hold that antakarana light within myself in order to kind of be the effect in life instead of being affected.
mhm. So it's so like I'm tripping ball. Like we always trip out when we would hang out, but I'm tripping out and I'm seeing as you're talking. Firstly, my feet are doing that thing they would always do, but I'm seeing like golden codes dropping in as you're
Yeah.
talking. And it's like, whew. So what I was going to ask, and I'm so glad you mentioned it, because as you were talking, they were saying, or my higher self was saying, oh my God, mention and ask him to mention this. You are so rare, right? Like you are one of the rarest spiritual men that I've met, because I would say 90% of spiritual people, not just men, but spiritual men particularly, haven't mastered the material realm. Like they're broke as fuck. They haven't mastered the material realm. They don't have like a grounding in this reality. And they're very like up here and they're very like gifted and can see and feel things. I feel like you were one of the first people I've met who was like, I have mastered this realm and that realm. And I'm like in between, right? So when you were talking and I was seeing these golden codes, it was like royalty, king kind of coding coming through, and it was linking back to, I could see it linking back to these like God lifetimes, and it was really cool because I just want to share for people who aren't like me and don't see things like that what was coming through as you were talking. And I think the key code that you were holding, that you were speaking into, was this moment of like, do you have money up there? Like, do you, like, you asked me to go do all these things, okay, fine. And so I would love for you to share the story, because I know this short story because you told me about when you were like, okay, like I get that I'm being overwhelmed by this spiritual purpose and you're asking me to do all these things and build this school, whatever it is, like whatever things they were asking you to do, but I'm going to now make a declaration that I would like to master the material reality first. Because you guys don't know this about Igor, but he has a whole other business, a whole other life. Like he does this spiritual stuff, takes people on pilgrimages. He's extremely tapped in, extremely sensitive. Like when we would go out to dinner, he'd have to come back and clear himself, like, especially in Mexico. It's quite, there was one street that was really intense, and it was amazing to watch him, like, having to do that. But I lost my train of thought. But what I'm trying to say, or what I was trying to say was, but you also were like very in this world, in this reality, in your body, training all the time, like the running a fucking business somehow, like a whole other business. He'd be on his phone, like running a business and receiving all these, so it was just like a trip for me, because I was like, I've only ever seen people who are like me, super up in that realm. I'd say this is something I'm mastering, and that's one of the key codes you work in me, like being able to, like, now the material stuff is really happening for me, but being able to balance that, right? Because I think a lot of us are so swept up in, we're so open, we're so sensitive, we're so in the ethereal realms, and then we fucking forget that we're human, having a human experience, especially with money and material provision. So I would love to, share the story of how that happened for you.
Yeah, I was actually $150,000 in credit card debt when that happened, because I was spending so much time in the ethers. I completely did not care about the physical reality. I mean, I understand what happens is because we switch so deeply into the spiritual realms, it makes us feel so good. We become active so much in the right hemisphere of our brain, which is great. But the whole purpose of us being here is to anchor that light here. And it's also like, this is a powerful time right now where the spiritual communities are awakening, saying, okay, I need to make money. Money is not bad. And we need to understand, what is money? Money is an emotional state of consciousness. So, as we are wealthy energetically and abundant with our divine gifts to perceive in other dimensions and realities, we also need to anchor that in here and become wealthy on the physical. Does not mean financially, or it means to be abundantly comfortable in all aspects of this reality. And so I started to work with my body and see, okay, everything flows through this body. Like literally, this is the core. If we're like the toroidal field and we're the core, that means that the channel of money has to flow through me. So that means uh, understanding of family has to flow through me. Understanding of structure has to flow through me. And that means I need to learn how to operate in my left and right hemisphere of the brain. So we need to have intellect and we need to have wisdom working together with intuition. So, in the physical reality, we have to understand the concept of the physical structure of the financial system, of business, let's say. We need to know it, because if we want to operate about it, in it, we need to understand it. So, to understand it is to actually take the moment and figure out, how does this work? How does the banking industry work? Or how does this business work? And by understanding that concept and applying your spiritual intuitive side to it, now you're changing the way this business was set up by the ones that are not awake, we can say, or the way it was structured from greed. Now you can change it from a more spiritual approach of how it can benefit everyone.
Mhm.
So those things I started to work with myself. I was like, okay, why isn't money flowing through me? Money should not just come to me, it should come to me and go out. So we have to be an open channel to receive and to give. And I started to, okay, what's going on in my brain? What neurons are not fully active? So I would go into meditative states and scan myself and look where I see I have these blocks. Or if I would see somebody wealthy or powerful, be like, oh, people have resistance to it. They have this hatred, labeling. That's because you're desiring to have that. So we
Mhm.
have to let go of that judgment towards what is great to somebody else and find neutrality. So I started to work with those aspects in the chakra systems. Then I started to tap into past lives. And I was like, wait a minute. Let's go to the higher self. Let's go to the soul where I am already wealthy. And I would take those channels of light that would come in, okay, and I would realign them with my higher self and bring them into this timeline and anchor them into the earth. So, another lifetime, you're already a god, a goddess, a wealthy business owner, a famous person, a healthy person. All you have to do is match the vibration, they say, right? But how do you match this vibration? So, if we start to perceive things from the toroidal field, you actually, all you have to do is bring that channel to your crown and flow through you.
Yeah. By the way, I can feel this is literally like I'm on orgasmic fire. There's so much, like, this is literally happening with some people as we're talking. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's what I started to do, and I started to work how it all has to come to the heart space, because
Mhm.
that heart space really opens up, and it's like very important to understand the physiology, the energy, and to merge them together. It's like, how do I merge 3D and 5D? That was the most important thing for me. So my workshops that I do, it's all about that.
Mhm.
Pilgrimages that we go through grid levels where they connect to the physical aspect. Because if you tap into the higher dimensions, it's all beautiful, it's all powerful. But how do we become gods here?
Mhm.
We need to anchor that energy in. And
Yeah.
that for me was like, okay, I spent a lot of time being in the esoteric side or the spiritual side and the higher dimensions, but now I want to anchor it in. And when you start to anchor that in, your whole physiological structure changes. Like your geometry of the body changes. Your organs will actually shift. Your desire for food will change. Your desire for belief systems, everything starts to change, because you're aligning with a part of yourself that is a doer, not
Mhm.
just coming here and seeing the world happen, but you actually shifting the world as you walk. There was this powerful saying in the Bible, as Abraham, as I speak, I create,
Mm.
right? And it'd be like abracadabra. What does that really mean? There's a mantra that activates your throat to the space of your higher self. So when you speak, people will feel it, they will embody it. So you don't speak from the truth of the personality, but you speak of the truth of the collective consciousness of this earth
Mhm.
to create. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to do, my spiritual work. But back then it was like very hard to charge people. And I felt like I should not charge people. Only in the past 2 years I started to charge people. Till then, everything was donation based. So I said, okay, God, I'm going to do all this divine work, but I need to create a business here that will allow me to provide, that I don't have to think about money, where I have to say, okay, am I going to heal this person? I'm going to give him this information. I'm going to share this. What am I going to get compensated? I didn't want none of that, because I wanted to just give without having that mental pattern. And I know a lot of people say, well, you need to have some balanced exchange. Well, it doesn't have to be a balanced exchange and a monetary. It could be spiritual as well. It could be anything, because today you give, somebody else will give you back later. So the whole purpose was like, I need to start doing this, like, and kind of like share this information. So as I started to teach and kind of hold space, doing events and all these things, and things started to evolve, but it allowed me to have that freedom where I'm not dependent on it. So
Mm.
I can intuitively flow through life without saying, okay, do I need this or do I need that in order to accomplish this? It's like, no, what resources can I use to achieve what I want to achieve?
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. It's interesting. And I'm being guided to, as you were talking about all this stuff, I was feeling lots of like sexual energy. And in my recent, like, I'm running a mystery school right now around Sophia feminine Christ codes. And I literally had this transmission this week around how money and sexual energy, or the energy of abundance, is the same core frequency. Divine abundance is feminine energy. It's like, it's creative energy, right? And it's resources to be able to create with.
Mhm.
So we have to detangle money from the equation of like wealth or abundance, because it's just energy, right? And as you were
Yeah.
saying, like, we've got to master like the 3D and the 5D, and then the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain. I was just seeing like divine union, divine, like inner union of the feminine and the masculine, which is really like beautiful. And so it's interesting, and this is going to be an edge, and I feel like you're going to hate me for even asking this. Your work is moving into more tantric work now, into more like that level of work. And if it's not, I'm going to yell at you, because we talked about it moving into that direction. But I want
Okay.
to hear from your perspective, because for me, like, when I think about money and I think about wealth and I think about, it's like divine abundance, right? Not just money. But when I think about money and I think about wealth and I think about holy wealth, like being divinely provided for, I'm like fucking orgasmic, right? I feel, it's like this sexual energy moving through my whole body, and it's like pleasurable, right? When I tune into what it feels to be abundant, to be able to do whatever, like to treat myself so I'm optimal, my chalice is overfilled, so I can go do what, you know, I need to do. And you embody this, right? Like when we were hanging out, I was like, this stuff, it feels so good. Like, you living in this generosity and in this world where it's like, there's always more resources, and you, like, it's in you, like you can see it. You're not worrying about anything like that, right? And that is a state of freedom, right? That's freedom of knowing I can always create more resources. That's creative energy. That's like God consciousness, as you were saying. So I'm curious, given that my experience of, it might not be everyone, but my experience of when I feel wealth or money in my body, it's like, feels the same to me as sexual energy. Like, it's like very feminine. It's very like, ooh, yeah, I'm not
Mhm.
gonna, I'm having a lot of energy moving through my body. I'm not gonna like try and express that. So what do you think for you? How would you connect? I don't say tantra, but like sexual energy and wealth, or like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's again, it comes back down to understanding the physiological part of our existence. you
Mhm.
know Even our sexual organs, the way they're designed, female sexual organs, they take in,
Mhm.
males give, right? So a male always wants to give. That's part of his natural nature. He wants to provide. And a female wants to take, because it's just the way we're designed, naturally. So even if when we go through the process of lovemaking, a female's orgasm stays in her body.
Mm-hmm.
The male's orgasm leaves the body. So the whole process to understand how to utilize that energy, if we know how to move that energy up through the body, you actually create a strong pillar within yourself of light because you're not releasing all the time. So when males start to harness that energy inside, it activates their pineal gland at a higher level. So the creativity side opens up, the crown opens up. Um, there is a lot of stuff that takes place in the physical body and as well as the spiritual body. When the physical body becomes filled with that light, right? When a male does not release all the time and knows how to harness that energy up through his spine, getting that elixir activated, what happens that energy body starts to say, okay, this physical body is vibrationally now matching the soul, the spirit. Now
Mm-hmm.
the physical body and the spirit start to unite, and there's a dance takes place between spirit and soul.
Mm-hmm.
Male's job is to create. That's why there's a song, right? It's a man's world. I mean, we could take a look at like houses are built by males. This is hard work. Female's job is to create the blueprint. She is a divine creativity that brings in the design and he builds it.
Mm-hmm.
See, her
Oh.
job is not to work. Her job is to be the queen of life.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
His job is to become the king. And to
Mm-hmm.
become the king, he has to know how to provide. But he also has, before he knows how to provide, he knows how to provide for himself first. What
Yep.
does that mean? When I say provide for himself, does not mean that he needs to make money. He needs to learn how to harness and honor his vessel to
Yeah.
become a stronger pillar, okay, in order to hold the space for his divine feminine. Because the masculine energy, so if we take a look in a little bit on a different perspective, we have electric and magnetic. Electric is the action, magnetic is the attraction. The
Mm-hmm.
female is the magnetic because that's why they say behind every powerful male there's a powerful female, meaning that she creates the idea, she holds the focus towards the end result,
Mm-hmm.
and he performs it and creates it all the way to the end.
Yeah.
But she has to be also balanced to hold that focus. But in order to hold that focus, she needs to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to provide the safety for her. So, but he has to feel safe within himself, with his own masculine energy. So there's like this two people have to work at this together, in order to create this. If we take a look at Yahshua and Mary Magdalene, we don't see that information out in the major public, but we know that both of them were able to hold space for one another. And because they were able to hold space for one another, that's why they were able to reach such great heights of vibration,
Mm-hmm.
because there's actually 5 stages of attraction. One stage is the sexual, the second stage is emotional, then we have mental, then we have the connection of service, and then the divine union where there is no separation between the two. Their thoughts are even at the same time, even though they could be apart from one another.
Mm-hmm.
So when we reach that higher frequency, that pinnacle of light, of divine union, which all of us are searching for, but we first have to do the divine union within. So the
Mm-hmm.
divine union within is the masculine, the feminine within ourselves, and that's when the connection starts to happen. But there is a lot in that whole process. I'm actually putting a course on that, and a part of me was like, do I teach this? Do I hold on to this, or do I share it? And I feel like I do need to share it. Thank you for
Good.
kind of pushing me on that there a little bit. So there's a lot in that whole process of understanding how to cultivate this energy. I mean, our physical body is so unbelievably magical.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors still this day don't fully understand how it operates. The stuff that goes inside of it. Now the body is complex, right? But our energy bodies are even more complex because now they're even more multidimensional. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing work on the physical body, it only stays here. If you're doing work in the energy body, you're working with your past life, future life, of the other lives, past life and future lives as well. So you're tapping into other dimensions and whatever they tap into in order to harness that energy and anchor it in here.
Mm-hmm.
So awareness and clarity and intuition all have to like come together in this powerful vortex of light. And this is where self mastery is very important. So that sexual energy that we talk about, that is the energy that allows us to hold space at a grander scale.
Mm-hmm.
So that energy, like, if you're depleted, you're not going to be able to hold space. You're
Mm-hmm.
tired, you want to sleep. But
That's how I feel right now. I'm ready for a sleep. Yeah.
and we have to know, okay, why am I feeling this way? What's going on in the belief systems of my chakra systems in my body? And it's like, I'm here to create. So for me, for instance, running businesses with, and one of them have over 1,000 employees,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you have to structure that together, but you also have to hold that energy.
Yeah.
So it's like cultivating that light within yourself is very important. I feel like the male has to understand himself before he tries to understand the female.
So good. You're literally like, I'm I'm thinking, okay, ask him that, and then you answer before I even start. I'm just gonna sit here and send you telepathic messages and let
You
you
can
answer.
talk to me telepathically. Maybe the
Yeah.
people on the other side will understand it telepathically.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you, so for men specifically, like what do you think the action steps are for men? Because like you're embodying this so beautifully, but like how did you get here? And how because like I teach women, right? And a lot of the women who listen to this, they're pretty much on a path. But for a man wanting to master what we've been talking about and get himself to this space where he's providing not only for himself but for a woman, and I feel like also the men who listen to my podcast are pretty tapped in, like they're more intuitive, open. What are the steps? Like what are some things that they can do? How did like yeah the how like how do they begin to work through all this stuff?
Well, first we have to, like I said, the main thing for me was to understand my physiology, how it works, what is the
Yep.
geometrical structure that creates within and outside. Because see, like a physical body, we build it, right? You start going to the gym, you start seeing results like 5, 6 months later, you're building it.
Mm.
The energy body also needs to be built in a certain way, because we get into this meditative state, everything is great, everything is wonderful, and when we come into this physical reality, we have to interact. So those interactions start to deviate our energy fields. So you have to know how to maintain that vibration and hold that structure, because there's a lot of these metatronic vibrations that flow through us.
Mm.
And when we know the whole geometry of it and how to hold it and construct it, anybody coming to your space will feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody coming into your space will feel abundant. People will be able to be relaxed, because we are so kind of always on a flight or fight mode and always being on a lookout. We have to know how to be in a relaxed state. So the practices that, one thing is, first thing is practicing is breathing with your testicles, activating those energies, because our testicles are a straight connection to our kidneys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know in Taoism that kidneys store fear. So do the testicles and the ovaries. So the sexual energy is, I would actually call the creative energy, because it is the energy of creation,
Mm.
right? So if that is the energy of creation, then we need to understand how to hold that energy, how to create it, and how to expand it out into the field so it becomes so strong and bright like the sun. Because there's sometimes you come next to a person, you feel like, wow, so beautiful, so peaceful, so loving,
Mm.
so safe, and so activated, aroused. But that arousal is actually the energy of creation,
Yeah.
right? So the more we build that, the more we strengthen that, and we release all the fears and the belief systems that we have within it, because the porn industry kind of has that fear in it. And we have the fear of money, we have the fear of family, we have fear of friends, and of abundance and creation. All of that gets stored in our sexual organs,
Mm-hmm.
but all of that needs to be released. So on daily basis, like, males need to know that, okay, I need to massage my testicles. Females massaging their ovaries. Why?
Mm.
Because when you massage them, you're actually massaging the kidneys to release all the fear. Because
Right.
in the astral body, the fear enters through the back. The lower three chakra systems, like the first, second, and third chakra, become one in the
Ah.
astral body, and they are actually in the back. So when people have financial problems, they have lower back problems, or they have fear problems, right? They're in the lower back, and that is like about a foot to 2 feet away from your physical body. And when we learn how to tap into that by massaging our sexual organs, our ovaries, females massaging their vaginal walls, and the penis for the males, there is chakra systems on those levels as well. Those chakra systems allow you to bring in that earth energy, that kundalini, right? That Shakti energy into the
Mm.
body. And when that Shakti energy is fully activated and not just comes in and feels so good for a certain period of time and then gone. No, no, no. When it comes in, it becomes a solid pillar, like nothing can deviate it. When that pillar is actually solid and you can hold that vibration for 9 months to a year without being deviated, that's when your cellular structure and your physical body will hold that no matter what happens. And when that formulates within you, the divine opens up and says, wow, you have created a vessel that is no longer disturbed or can be easily deviated by this physical reality,
Mm.
right? So there's a lot more involved in it, but through the daily practices, you can really anchor that in. And it takes time. I started doing this actually right after my awakening, like in 2005, um, practicing these types of practices. It was like, okay, no ejaculation for 50 days. And the first time I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have blue balls. I'm going to this, because all the belief systems that were told us, that's
Mm.
not true. So I was like, wow, I can actually move that energy into my mind and like so much clarity. And when you speak, that really like opens up a lot through that area because um, as above, so below, you know? So the anus and the top of the head where the hair spirals in the back, there's a connection there. There's a deep connection between those two levels. And when you open that up, you are actually opening up to the creativity of the universe. Now
Mm.
people become attracted to you. Now
Mhm.
people want to talk to you. People want to come into your field. Why? Because you're holding a certain vibration that everybody wants to experience. I mean, why do we love orgasm so much?
Does it feel good? Because no, because they're great. I mean, I already said I'm being a dick. Absolutely, because well, it's like when we say, "Oh my God," when we're about to come or when we're coming. It's like, "Oh my God!" It's because that state brings us closer to God. You've frozen. Did I freeze? No. It's like, and this is what has tactically happened in our society, the conditioning around sexuality. Like it has been repressed for so long because actually that state brings us really close to the pure creative state of what God feels like. God is pure, or goddess is pure orgasmic energy. It's that state of just that hum, that vibe. Like when you're orgasming, it's that hum. Like I don't know if anyone else feels it like a hum, but it's like a hum
Hmm.
throughout my whole being. Like it's like a hum. It's a humming energy of life moving through me. And that's what God feels like, right? It's like
Exactly.
release, love, fuzzy, warm, fuzzy, oh, juicy, good. Anyway, I could go on and on about how good life is as an orgasmic being, but I don't know if a lot of people will relate to that.
Yeah, and it's 100%. It's the
Mm.
closest feeling to God
Mhm.
because we are gods in a way, experiencing this physical reality, and the orgasm brings it the closest feeling to us. So we're constantly chasing it, but
Mhm.
that chase also creates a never-ending satisfaction.
Yeah.
So the question now comes: when is enough?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes people get carried away in that spiral and they're like, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want to feel that. But how do you come into that state where you're constantly having that orgasmic experience
Yeah.
within the mind?
Yeah.
Because with time, um, we have stages in life as we go through. When we're young, we're this. When we're middle aged, there's certain things, and when you get older, it's like, okay, is my health good? So uh, so everybody goes through those stages. But it's important to kind of understand, because that energy can be so powerful. You can literally heal, transform, transmute everything in the physical body, because when two people come together and they utilize that energy powerfully and with a proper intention,
Mm-hmm.
they can heal the body. They can self-realize just through that divine union,
Yeah.
because in reality you don't need nothing. It's just the divine intention of two beings coming together, interlocking and like merging into oneness.
Yeah. Sex magic. Absolutely.
Oh
That's what it
yeah,
is.
definitely. It's alchemical. Yeah, alchemical sex. Yeah.
This is also something that we can do on our own, right? And I need to make this clear for people. Like, if you don't have a partner, if you're not like
Yeah.
meeting people that meet you on your level and are able to play with you, for me, like, I had to go celibate for quite some time and reclaim my sexual energy for myself and for God before I was even able to have these beautiful experiences with men where we were playing in these tantric realms, or we were having these like experiences of sex magic. Like, it was me primarily having that experience within myself with what felt like being fucked by the divine. Like, that's what it would feel like for me, like having God, like having a sexual experience with God, or merging with God, right? And so it's like, actually, that is the foundational, like being able to have those experiences for yourself. And so when you were saying with men being able to like withhold their like
Semen.
semen retention and like these practices to get the energy moving, like, people need to understand we need to master that within ourselves before we even try and do that with a partner, because otherwise it's like, I feel like we hook into people and then we rely on them. And then what I'm seeing in like how the energy is moving, it's like you're plugging into them instead of plugging into source, and then like it's going into them. Do you understand what I'm trying
Yeah,
to say?
100%. You know,
Yeah.
you just reminded me something. I was in Egypt, right? And we're doing this pilgrimage, walking through it. And we were in Siwa. That place is like an hour, 5 hours. No, it was 8 hours away from Egypt. An old, very old temple. We get to that temple, and in that temple, I go into this space where I was taken up into Christ consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm being shown how Yahshua and Mary Magdalene arrived at that place to get married. They
My
arrived there to get
I was,
married,
I was waiting for you. I was like, he's
a-
gonna.
and it just came up. I was like, I gotta share this. All right. So I was like, we're standing there, and I'm observing them. They get there to get married, and the priestesses that were at that temple during that time period, they were all divinely aligned. They
Mm-hmm.
were highly divine goddesses that were intuitive, completely operated from the higher realms. As Joshua comes there, and their marriage, and Mary Magdalene, their marriage takes place for 8 days. For 7 days, these divine goddesses connect to Joshua energetically and to Mary Magdalene to make sure that
Oof.
their whole being is aligned to source, to
Mm-hmm.
God, to the Elohimic consciousness, and not be deviated from that for one even second for the next 7 days.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Right.
for 7 days, yeah, this was like a lot. For 7 days, they had to maintain that vibration, both of them. And those goddesses were observing them 24/7. So that means they were not supposed to move their attention to one another. They were supposed to be focused towards the divine source only.
Mm-hmm.
On day 8, after they've done that, they got married.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was like a very powerful vision that I got during that time period. It moved my whole body, like literally, it moved my whole body. And in that moment, I felt the merger and the marriage that I'm still actually integrating since uh, October or
Mm-hmm.
November of last year, of 2024. Still integrating that merger of my masculine and feminine actually being merged into one.
Mm.
And it's been very powerful. I actually just spent 5 days in the dark room integrating that. That was very deep. And I'm like, wow, there's like a lot. And it was like, my intuition is like, nope, it's going to keep going until April or May. I was like, okay, that was a big integration process. So yeah, that experience was something very powerful for me to
So,
witness.
give me 1 second. There's like a lot of. I just need to. Lots of energy moving. feel into what to ask. Whew. It's interesting. This is not what I want to ask. I just want to weigh in on like the conversation in relationship. How so often we want to plug into someone else to it's almost like siphoning their life force or their love or something from like we're receiving from them and we're getting that from them instead of self sourcing and coming from within. And it's interesting because
Mm,
you and I always spoke about how many karmic situations we've been through and partners and almost like this learning school of fucking relationships to come into sacred union, but actually it's like bringing us back to being plugged into self, right? Being
yeah.
plugged into God and like being that pillar. And I think our time together, it was interesting because we both have this awareness of like being plugged into that source and staying sovereign, right? While in connection, while in union. So that's what was just coming through. Like, as you were talking about that, I was like
Yeah.
thinking about how many relationships, like we feel this experience of love or pleasure or whatever it is. And it's because that person, we're plugged into them as our source of love or security or whatever, or like they're playing the role of our father and providing for whatever it is. Like we're plugging into someone else when really what we need to do is plug into source. Like God is for women, God is my daddy, God is my lover, God is my provider, God is my whatever, my partner, my best friend, my investment banker, whatever the fuck, like, right? Like God is my bank account.
I
Um,
call it the twin flame.
yeah, absolutely.
That
Yeah.
is our twin flame.
Yeah.
Like vertical
Yep.
connection is our twin flame. And
Great
when we
beloved.
come into these relationships, right? Relationships is the other person makes us feel at a certain level how we want to feel with ourselves.
Yes. Yeah.
So that other person's showing you the best version
Mhm.
of yourself that you can be while they're with you because they're playing a reflection. And we have to kind of understand that and also see that because not all the time we see these things
Mhm.
is because we're like, oh, you made me feel good, so you are the one that I need to hold on to, and we
Mhm.
start to hold on to it instead of allowing each individual to kind of grow. So
Mhm.
yeah, you're definitely on point that because our twin flame is that vertical connection,
Yeah, it's a
because
great beloved.
horizontally we can only share,
Yeah.
so vertically receive and horizontally we expand.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And it's beautiful that we see and we seek out or we call in these reflections or mirrors from other people of like aspects of ourselves to awaken. And I think both of us at this point, we're used to this. We've had this experience so many times that we're like, okay, what like is this can't like what, what am I here to learn? What's the situation? And I think many people get caught up in some definitive like has to be this, has to look like this, has to end like this. And it's like we're receiving reflections and pieces from people all the time of like gifts, right? Gifts,
Mhm.
codes to awaken. And I'm very aware of like what was awakened in me in our time. And it's beautiful to be able to get to a point when you can acknowledge the gifts someone is bringing in your life and what they're showing you instead of going into victimhood around, something not being everything that you call all of that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I was acknowledging that because that was coming in the field. I would love to know from your perspective what makes a sacred man or what is the sacred masculine? What is a sacred
Mm.
masculine? What makes a sacred man a sacred man?
For a woman or for himself?
Both. Both.
The thing is, I first find that he needs to become the sacred man for himself,
Yes.
to be able to say no when he's ready, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to say the truth, but in the most gentlest way,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to hold the space for himself and his inner child. See, the inner child is very important for the male because the inner, well, for everybody, but we have to know how that inner child works because the union of the divine mother and father within takes place within the inner child because the thymus, right, is the heart of the inner child.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he starts to kind of understand who he is and what needs to be done and his role in this life to
Mm-hmm.
become a space holder, a provider, a lover, a playful being. Like there's a lot inside that we have to go through. And once you truly understand yourself and you can hold that pillar, then I feel like he's going to be able to be truthful in his relationship and hold the pillar there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times what happens is, oh, I got aroused. She's the one.
Mhm.
you know, and that could not be the one. But
Mhm.
I understand that needs to be part of the reality that we're in. But we need to have a higher discernment, and that higher discernment comes from a balanced state of mind and a perception grounded in this physical reality, yet aware of the multidimensionalism. And I think we as a collective beings, we're moving towards that direction, either we like it or not. And I think like in the next towards the end of this year, we're going to see a lot more people are opening up to the higher crown chakras, like the 12 chakra system. And I know a lot of spiritual communities are already open to it, but I'm
Mhm.
talking about the people that are not. And we're going to see a huge shift in that, where the male energy is going to become and understand who he is here. So is the female energy, because there's a lot of separation that took place throughout the years, and they distorted that female and male energy and the roles that you have.
Mhm.
Because just a plain example, you're gonna have two cooks in the kitchen making the same soup.
Mhm.
You know, it's gonna become a mess.
Yeah.
So it's just we have to know the roles of who we are here. If you
Yeah.
know your role and you don't overstep your boundary into the divine feminine's work, and you keep you doing what you need to do and she does what she needs to do, it will always work out, because it's in a communication. It's part of openingness and being able to express yourself. There'll be a time where we can express ourselves telepathically. Yeah, definitely. But right now we're at a space where we need to express ourselves, because energetically what happens is we merge, right? Two partners, they come in, they merge. The toroidal fields intertwine. A female's mind is stronger than the male's because she can influence him.
Mm.
She can influence him very, very much so, in a way like, okay, let's say you have a vision, you want a home, right? If a female in her subconscious mind has that vision, she wants to have that home, he will start having these desires that he needs to create that home. He's
Mhm.
not even going to understand why. But her creative idea gave him an activation into his electrical field to create and provide.
Mhm.
He's not even going to understand, but with time, he's going to start having the visions that she's holding inside of her in order to create that in the physical reality.
Mhm.
So she creates the blueprint, but she has to be also be emotionally balanced,
Mhm.
because the female part, she's her emotions are all over, right?
Mhm.
She moves.
Mhm.
But male is more mental. He's more here logical. So his understanding is how to put the bricks together, how to make this perfect square, the ratios and the corners and where everything goes. So he's a builder.
Mm.
And she's just this blueprint creative idea that comes from nothing and creates this beautiful blueprint.
Mhm.
So if we know our roles in our lives, I think we become so powerful. I mean, one of the other things came to me, the time of Lumeria. At 12 years old, whenever they would, boys and girls would go through puberty, they intuitively knew who their partner is going to be for the rest of their life or during a certain duration of the time period. How
Mm.
did they know that? Because they were open in a higher dimension of the astral body, and they knew that, okay, his gifts are matching to her gifts,
Mhm.
and they would come together to co-create what they were supposed to create on this planet.
Mhm.
Now, after the Great Flood, those ideas stayed with us, but some cultures implemented it as arranged marriage,
Yeah.
right?
Oof.
So the ideas was there, but they kind of shifted it into this arranged marriage type, because they knew that that's how it's supposed to work. So when boys and girls go through puberty, they still have this celebration, right? And they would say, okay, your daughter's going to marry my son, or my son's going to marry your daughter. They would shake hands on it.
Do you think
But
then we come
before
coded,
that,
those of us who are connected to this concept of a sacred marriage? Because I've always wondered this. And I think I know the answer for me, but I know in my fucking heart, and I've known since I was young, there is someone I know that there is someone I need to meet him, and I'm pissed every day. Like, where the fuck are you, right? And you've had the same experience because we've talked about this. But there's this knowing that I am not meant to do this by myself, and there is someone that is going to complement, right? And
Yeah.
so, do you think those of us here to anchor this sacred marriage? It's not a fantasy. It's not like I'm
No.
looking for someone to complete me. I'm not looking for a fucking twin flame. Like, we've been through that whole
Yeah.
experience and all the bullshit that comes with it. It's more like there is a coding within some of us of
Hmm.
this template of what that sacred marriage was, like that. Like Yeshua and Magdalene were paired together. Like there was a whole group, a council that paired them together before they even came here based on their soul blueprint, right? Like it's like a higher
Yeah.
level. So do you think those of us who are meant or destined to experience this level of connection have that encoded knowledge within us, and then we're trying to fucking search for it and like going through all these experiences to prepare us for that?
I think there's this one concept that we have in a spiritual community that everything is going to be peaches and cream.
Yeah.
I will meet my Prince Charming, I would meet my queen, and everything's going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we live in a world of duality,
Yeah.
so there will be things that we need to work through. Relationship is also two people coming together and communicating and working through things. The
Yeah.
easiest part is to walk away from a relationship. The hardest part is actually to stay there and go through the ups and downs. So what happens is that we also get carried away on this image of this fairy tale, that this knight shining armor is going to come, is going to become perfect. There is
Mm-hmm.
no such a thing as perfect, because we cannot be perfect. We live in a world that just cannot be so perfect.
Yeah.
You know, the whole beauty about it is to see the beauty is in the imperfection. So a lot of times what happens is when we get a little um, kind of, oh my God, an issue or problem came along, we run away from it. We
Mm.
start searching for something else right away before even having that willpower to kind of go through stuff. I understand there are sometimes relationships come to an end and you have to go. You have to like let go. Okay. But a lot of times also these days, what we do is basically we run away from the problem. We don't want to deal with it. So we also have to find the strength and the beauty in overcoming these things,
Mm.
because that's dedication, because it is a work. It's not something that's just going to be like, okay, the first 2 years are always beautiful,
Mm.
and what happens afterwards? There's these cycles that we have to go through.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. There was a question I had, but my brain went because there's so much energy moving. Yeah. But do you think that like is coming back? Like because I feel like in our society, marriage, the sanctimony of marriage is really it's lost its meaning.
It lost a
It's
lot.
yeah, absolutely. Do you think that we're moving back to a more balanced or a more higher spiritual like template of restoring what these spiritual unions were?
I think we are. It's just, before the collapse of change, a collapse has to happen.
Yeah.
So I feel like this was the contraction period that we were in. And what I really, in China, I just read this a few weeks ago. In China, they saw that the divorce rate was so high that they started to teach children in school what marriage is about and how to sustain it.
Wow.
So if we are taught that from childhood instead of seeing our kind of broken families, right?
Mm.
And we kind of have that education from childhood, I think there's a lot of positive things that can come out of it.
Mhm.
Because if we go back, like, just 150 or 50 years to 100 years ago, people believe that they're married and they stay together forever.
Yeah, your parents
But
are still together, right? I remember you
yeah, my
saying.
parents are still together. Yeah,
So
50 something years already they've been.
mine
But
shouldn't be, but they are.
huh?
Mine shouldn't be, but they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I feel the same way, but they kind of dedicated and they go through stuff. I mean, it's
Mhm.
not going to be, nobody's going to be perfect, you know. And I understand sometimes it's like abusive relationship, this and that. Yeah, okay, go. It's time to go. But sometimes I just see a lot of things. People are just like, it didn't work out. I left.
Mhm.
Ta-ta. I'll find somebody else. because we are so distracted by the technology and what we see these days. We don't even know how to hold on to anything. Our focus became so short. It's like 5-second videos, I'm done, I'm going to the next one. So
Yeah.
because of that, we cannot focus on anything to maintain as well. That's where
Yeah.
the focus comes in very strongly as well, is be able to hold the focus of long term.
Yeah.
And holding that vision inside ourselves is very important. I feel like it could be in work, in family, relationships, friends, whatever it is learning how to hold that focus, because holding that focus really activates the gland systems and releases um, the hormonal disbalance within the body that distracts us from the long-term vision of the soul.
Mm.
So so when I say that, what I'm talking about is the pituitary gland, because everybody always focuses on the pineal, but the pituitary gland balances out the whole physiology of the body and clears out the glands, because the glands are the chakra systems that where the trauma is stored. So if we clear that energy out and we learn how to hold the focus, you'll attract what you need to. It will come to you naturally. Sometimes that word attract feels very from the mind of the personality or the ego. But if we look from the soul level, the soul wants you to be in a partner. It wants to be in a relationship. That's why we came here, becoming female or a male, because on the soul level, you're neither.
Mm.
So we come here into this duality in order to experience that.
Yeah. Yeah. And to experience the external manifestation of like merging with God, right? Like to become separate to then become whole again in that external
Exactly.
experience. I love it. So
I also
I'm,
feel like soul unions last is because they're both on a journey of service,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what makes it. That's what
because
makes
they have
it.
a end result. That's what they're going together. They're kind of like holding on to one another and holding on in a spiral where they catalyze one another to move up higher in vibration.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's where the soul union, I feel like, as having that mission, that journey that they have together to share, I think that's a big play, plays a big role in life.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Amazing. Just feeling I'm there's so much energy moving that I'm getting sleepy. So I'm gonna ask, is there anything else you feel is
Sleeping,
important for people
yeah,
to yeah, I just want
very
to like
important.
get to
Now,
bed
question is to you, why you feel sleepy?
because I'm getting energetic overload. There's been so many things moving through my body. I just want to like get under my cover and just
That's
oh
one of the things that actually, yeah, is working with that energy, that Shakti energy,
yeah.
that fire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know it needs to move. It needs to go out towards things. But I was very sleepy when we got in this call. I think we're
What
going
time is
through.
it there right now?
It's like 10:42, but I woke up exhausted. So I
10:42 a.m.
yeah. So
Oh, okay.
I have no excuse really. I feel like the energies at the moment are really intense, and I personally need to sleep a lot. And you know what? I have no guilt about that because I know that that's like when I'm
Yeah,
receiving upgrades and downloads and energies integrating, I need rest. And I think a lot of people don't let themselves rest and they push. And I literally yesterday got the message because I was like, fuck, I need to be writing this book. Like, oh my God, I'm putting
that's what
pressure
I've
on
been doing
myself,
for 2 months. Tell you the truth.
writing
And
a
you
book
know
or
me, I'm like always on the move. And
resting.
for the past 2 months is like do nothing. I just want to relax, just do
That's,
nothing. And I was like
yeah.
completely in a hermit mode.
Yep.
And I just for the past 2 weeks was like, all right, let's get back to work.
Hmm.
But before that, I was
Yeah.
like,
It feels like energetically at this moment. I'm going to be posting this like soon. So it'll be current when you're listening to this. It's current. It's like what, February 2025. I just turned 23,
2:20.
23, 32. I was like 23. I just turned 32, everyone. Woohoo.
Oh,
Happy New
happy
Year.
birthday.
Thank you.
Wait
But
a minute. When was it?
literally yesterday, 2 days ago. Yeah.
No, on the 18th?
19th. Yep.
19th. Today's the
Yeah.
20th.
Yeah. So you're
Yesterday.
fired from my life. No.
Happy belated birthday, love.
Thank you. No, the point that I'm trying to make is I feel like what's happening since December, and I'm interested to get your pulse. We've been having a lot
I
of
think longer than that.
yeah. Well,
The
I mean,
eclipse in October, no, September, the eclipse in September,
Uh-huh.
from that moment on, I feel like we've been working in the subconscious mind,
Yeah.
especially December, January, February. A lot of stuff has been coming up with the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind to me is the divine feminine,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because the subconscious mind has really triggered to activate and raise the vibration of our inner child into the Christed inner child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the subconscious mind, the feminine, has been releasing a lot, and the superconscious mind is now definitely merging in where our inner child is being expanded and opened up. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
can feel you going through it right
Yeah, it's
now.
intense, huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's for me, I'm seeing it as an activation of the Christ body is what's going on. And I think a lot of people like I don't know why I'm just feeling guided to go on a fucking rant about ascension symptoms and like the process of becoming crystalline and like the process of receiving all of these downloads and upgrades and not just clearing like because every time we're receiving all of this cosmic data or solar energy or whatever it is to upgrade ourselves, we're then having to dump a bunch of shadow and purge and clear stuff to create space, not just from this incarnation, because we're multidimensional, but from a whole bunch of other ones, right? I don't know, like for some reason I'm going on a rant to normalize like needing to rest while all of this is happening because we're getting a new cellular structure, right? Like we're clearing stuff from our DNA. We could be
Yeah.
clearing things that we don't even know what we're clearing. Like I have no conscious awareness of some of the stuff. I mean, right now I have a conscious awareness. The past 3 days, it's been stuff with my mom because I'm here in my house with my mom. But over
Mhm.
the past 2 months, I've been clearing. I've been working, but I've been clearing a lot with no awareness of why I'm suddenly crying all day. There's no reason. I'm just crying. And I've kind of gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, there's emotions they just need to clear. I don't even try and figure out where they're from a lot of the time. I just know they need to move, right?
Mhm.
But I think a lot of people don't have this awareness and they don't allow themselves to just process and release and rest and take care of their bodies. Like they're like, I need to push through, I need to go. And it's like for me, knowing what this ascension process is, particularly like the activation of the Christ body, which is the level above the diamond light body, the way that I see it, it's like the next level up of the activation. It's exhausting because you are having to clear everything that's like keeping you out of sovereignty, out of that inner connection. And
Yeah.
that manifests in things that you call in, but it's also manifesting in clearing old trauma or patterns or holding patterns or energies within your own body. For me, it's like inner child stuff, like with my parents, where that the template of like divine mother, divine father is distorted. At the moment, I've been feeling a lot like the energy that has been clearing. I don't know why I feel guided to share this. It's like I've been lying in bed all day, just in an orgasmic state, being like, I don't want to do anything. And I just desire to be fully provided for, which is really unlike me, right? Like I am very independent and I've always like wanted to create my own wealth. But literally the past 3 weeks, I've just been lying here being like, God, just bring me everything that I need. I don't want to do fucking anything. Goddess energy, like just like fully, right? But it's I can
Sometimes we need
see,
that.
yeah, I can see that what's happening is or but like that in a partner, right? Like which is crazy for me because I see my mom, for instance, who is fully and was fully financially dependent on my dad, and it's not worked out very well because now they're in a situation where I don't get into it too much, but like I see that how that could be really bad. And so I flipped in my childhood to the opposite. I'm going to be hyper independent, never need a man, right? And now I'm like, it's interesting because I'm flipping into like, I just want to like lie here and be fed grapes and like
Mhm.
have everything taken care of for me. And I don't want to fucking work. Fuck it, I don't want to work. I just want to write. So it's like almost like I'm clearing by flipping from extremes. I'm coming into a balanced, more integrated. Where is the independence with also allowing myself to be supported? It's like that's what I'm moving through at the moment, and what I'm trying to express is because I'm moving through all this energetically. Then I don't want to work. Like I don't want to do anything. I just want to lie in bed all day and just like rest. And I
And it's
think,
okay.
yeah, people
I
don't.
feel like you don't just want to rest. I feel like you want to be nurtured and just held.
Yeah, yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah. And
Yeah, accurate.
maybe getting a massage would be great as well.
I did yesterday. Yeah.
Oh,
And
there you
all of
go.
this came up. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is when we're going through this, if we don't have a conscious awareness of the things that we're clearing or processing, we could just feel really emotional or like really tired or, having thoughts or things come up that we're having to clear and process. And for me, I'm all about like being compassionate to our humans because what other like period of time have humans come here to move through this ascension process in a human body. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy, right? These are unprecedented energies as well. Like I feel like I'm in my chat with the women that I'm holding space with every second day, being like, whoa, the energy's off the charts today. Like just rest, like it's all good. So I'm wondering if you felt like this energetically, like whatever is going on, it's
Well,
intense, right?
it's like energetically, I meditate a lot. So energetically, it's like kind of, I know this is not me, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
It's like it's in the field, but I'm like not really kind of responding to it, but I'm feeling it.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's like that because those are subconscious, and those subconscious beliefs are coming up to the surface. So every Tuesday I hold like free meditations, and during those meditations are actually they're all kind of channeled to lift all that energy. So what I could suggest is when you come into the meditative state, you can ask your subconscious mind to be everything that it wants to raise up, raise it up to your higher self. Let
Mm,
it take care of it
yeah.
because the subconscious mind wants to release it. So we're also changing, our DNA is changing, and we're stepping into the 24th chromosome level. So we're activating that part, which makes us more multidimensional. So we're stepping into our astral body. So the astral body is being activated and we're becoming more aware of this field. And
Mm,
whatever the debris of beliefs that we have in the field is basically now needs to process through the physical DNA and then be released. So
mhm,
that's why we feel so tired, is because that energy is being like basically, okay, December, January, February, compressed all at once, and we feel so much pressure. It is just exactly what we're going through when the snake sheds its skin, right?
mhm.
The shedding part, and we're in the year of the snake. So we're
Great.
shedding away of those subconscious beliefs, which liberates our inner child, but the physical body has to go through that change. I mean, I'm sure I can tell a lot of people have changed, their digestive systems have been changing, the
Mhm,
desire to shift the way they eat, all of those things in the lower extremities have been shifting a lot for a lot of people because the inner child is liberating itself.
yeah.
It is becoming free. It is becoming completely aware of the field and understanding of that it needs the love and the support of your super conscious, your higher self, your goddess self. And that's what's coming online. And I kind of, that's why I said, I see that towards the end of this year, the expansion of energy, like the second half of this year, is going to be so powerful. I feel like there's going to be such a big expansion of awareness and awakening for people. Their crowns are really going to open up.
Mm,
So that's like coming in really deeply on all levels.
mhm. Interesting. Do you think, just a random question, do you think we're going to have any crazy events like disclosure? So, like, I know how you feel about this stuff.
Isn't that always happening?
Yeah, but like, do you feel like there's some big thing coming? Because I kind of have this feeling and I've been like prepared for like some like event, some sort of, I don't know, like even there's no charge around like whether it's a negative or a positive event. I've had some wild dreams and stuff, but do you think like more events are going to be coming in our collective to shake things up to cause this big crown awakening, or it's just like because of the energy?
Um, Probably we'll go through some things maybe till June, July,
Mhm.
but I don't think it's going to be anything major. If they shut off the lights for 3 days, that's great. Everybody will actually go into hermit mode, and we don't need to eat, and we can go through a cleanse for 3 days.
Yeah.
So if that happens, but most likely it feels like as a collective we have shifted.
Okay, beautiful.
As a collective around the world, we really have shifted. Like we're taking a big leap of
Mhm.
understanding. Like we need to save this earth.
Yeah,
We need to stop these wars
yeah,
because all these wars are wars within ourselves.
yeah.
Who are we giving the flame to hold? Who's controlling our lives? Why are we giving somebody charge to do what we don't even know what? Like all these things are just coming up to the surface. So this year I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to be a crazy year. I mean, every year is a crazy year. Every year there's some catastrophe happens, some sort of fire, some sort of flood. It's been going on for thousands of years. It's just now we have
Social
the
media.
phone, the internet, where we get to see this stuff instantaneously, and we're like, catastrophe, catastrophe. What's going on inside of us? Is there a catastrophe there? That's the important part. If we find peace in ourselves, the world will shift. So that's why I feel like a big change is coming, and I feel like a collective shift took place, especially these first 3 months. I was in the dark room, and when I went into the dark room, everything was okay. When I came out of the dark room, half of California burned down. So it was like, whoa. And while I was there was a lot of energy of fire. And in the dark room, when I was meditating there or just being there, the whole purpose is to surrender. It's like you being inside the womb. You need to surrender. We need to surrender of doing. So that's why we were feeling like, oh, we just want to sleep, not do nothing. It's
Mm,
okay, because what's happening, the body's processing stuff, and we need to learn how to surrender. By surrendering, we're actually opening up a doorway to the new us, to the new self.
yeah.
And it's like, whoa, right after that, it's like a whole surge of energy comes through.
Yeah, I think that's really true. Anyway, like I can feel, and I've seen there's death and rebirth, and then you have to be in the void, and then the void is the uncertainty, but the void is where the cultivation happens, and like it's like
Yeah.
the butterfly entering the chrysalis. So like I know by now, like been through this enough times. That, like when my body's like I just want to sleep and rest and do nothing, it's like because whatever's wanting to push through is needing to happen. Like you're needing to anchor that new level. You're needing to anchor those new energies. You're needing to process and release the past to have this propulsion forward. And it's interesting. When I had my massage yesterday, the woman's like really into astrology, and she was talking about the energy right now in February and whatever. I think because we're in Pisces, it's very, I love Pisces. I am a Pisces. So of course, Pisces is the best, arguably the best. No one has ever said to me that Pisces is not the best. Do you agree?
Pisces is the best.
Yeah, thank you. There we go. Love you for that. But she was saying until the energy moves into Aries, it's gonna be this more dreamy, kind of like resty, not like a lot of physical, maybe like lots of ideas coming through, but not like a lot of physical action. And then the Aries energy is like pushed through, like, and it's not just like because we're in Pisces season, there was something shifting. I can't remember what she said. Something is shifting astrologically. Anyway, here am I trying to.
The planets are shifting, and the more awake we become, aware we become, we actually feel the planets moving
Yeah.
before they even like take place. The other thing is that a lot of people are gonna see how they want to express themselves or their soul journey in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So that like you mentioned, the ideas that are coming through, is part of your soul mission.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had one desire to see the world or do certain things, it might change in the next month or so, because the soul is coming through and says, this is your soul journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Beautiful.
So the idea will come in that is more aligned with your soul purpose.
Yeah, that's
I think
interesting.
that's a
That
lot
is
more.
interesting. Because I feel like for me, like what's happening is like it's not a complete trajectory shift, but I'm really feeling like all I want to, like literally, I want to do nothing but just write and create music. That's it. And I'm like, God, figure out how I'm going to make money doing that so I can just write and create music all day long. And I don't give a fuck. Like, what if I have to get an OnlyFans and sell pictures of my feet? Like, I will do that. But it's that's, it's like, it's been so in my conscious, like awareness for the past 2 months. Like, I don't want to work anymore. I don't like, I don't want, well, not like the way that the way that I've been doing things doesn't feel like it lights me up. And maybe
Yeah.
that's because I need to move more towards in person or whatever. Like, I don't know what it is yet, but it feels like I'm getting a pause on how I've been doing things. And it doesn't, like, there's no fire or there's no energy towards the old way of doing it because I'm being shown something. So it's like all I have right now is a vision of like, I just want to write books and create. And that's it. Like, that's it. I don't want to have to like do anything other than just create. That's it. I just want to create.
What kind of creativity of what's coming in for you for the books?
Well, I'm halfway through a book about the sacred masculine right now. So like my second book is like I'm 40,000 words in. And that's fine. Like that's great. But it's more just like the way that I desire to share and teach moving forward or embody my soul aspect of my codes is more one to many, more detached, like something that I create and then put out there. Like I go through my creative process and I put it out there rather than holding space all the time. Do you
Yeah.
understand like the difference? Like I don't want to have to be committed to show up on calls and do that sort of thing. It's more like I'm going to create art that feels really exciting for me, like music, writing, whatever. Like I'm going to express myself in different ways as a soul, and I'm desiring to find a way to be completely supported to do that, where I can just take time and just write, or like that's so it's interesting. It's yeah, I mean it's no different. Like I've always known that I'm an author. Like since I was a baby, I've
Yeah.
known it's in my, not a baby, maybe like 3. It's always been in my coda. Like I've always known an artist and a creative, but it's like recently it's like that's all I want to do, like that's it. And even that at the moment I'm like struggling to show up and write at the moment, but it's like honoring, hey God, I don't want to fucking have to do anything else but the thing that I want to do, which is this. You figure it out and tell me how, right? So that's like why I'm sitting in bed playing all these scenarios of like, oh my God, how good would it feel to just like, I don't know, like have someone just support me to do all of it, like, so it's now my soul is like, okay, I have the desire, and I know that the desire is like, maybe I don't, and it might not be fully true that this is not at all ever how I want to run my business or whatever. Like maybe it's like because the new thing hasn't come yet, but I'm like, okay, I'm just allowing what doesn't feel aligned to fall away, and I'm allowing my excitement or my joy or like what I want to focus on, what would feel really good, to just guide the way forward, and then I don't need to figure out the how of like how that's going to happen.
Well, you'll have your answer
Yeah.
by mid-year.
Yeah. Well, by the end of the year, great. I gotta wait.
Mid-year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
time
So,
goes by. Look, we're already almost done February.
yeah. Yeah, it does go quick. So, my
Mhm.
love, is there anything else like coming through to share, or anything that feels unfinished? Or I feel like we've come into a conclusion now. I'm just ranting about how much I
We
want
can
to like
go for hours. I mean, if
ride
you
and
want,
sleep.
but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, Igor, beautiful Igor, if people want to find you, if they want to follow you, you have quite a community and all of that, how can they do that?
Oh yeah, so they can go to like igorgalibov.com or alignmentoflight.com. There's a community page. There's pilgrimages that I'm doing. I'm actually doing a pilgrimage to Turkey,
Mhm.
which is walking through the divine feminine energy, going through the energy of Sophia and Mother Mary. That is actually, we're going to the temples where Mother Mary lived the last years of her life after Jesus' crucifixion.
Mhm.
So we're going to be going there, doing some activations there. It's a powerful site. Those temples were created before the Great Flood by the ancients, because the temples that were created throughout this earth, or the pyramid structures that we see, they were actually created by beings that operated from the astral plane of perception.
Mhm.
So these higher divine beings knew how to build things according to the grid levels of the earth. So we're going to be going there, doing some activations, retrieving soul fragments, healings, and different pilgrimage. We're going all the way to Cappadocia, where there's a city that was built about 200 levels down into the earth. So
Yeah.
we'll be visiting there. It's a beautiful ancient sites as well. And then we're gonna stop by also at where Rumi was born. Was born. So
Yeah.
where all his beautiful divine
Mhm.
downloads and visions that he had of love. So we're gonna be spending some time there as well with the Sufis, which I really enjoy.
Beautiful.
So that pilgrimage is taking place, and
When?
people can find me. That's in June 7th.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
June
Turkey's been
7th,
coming
10
up into
days.
my field, so maybe
Huh?
I'll have to get a ticket. See that Turkey's been coming up into my field recently as well.
Oh, it is magical. There's a whole trip was put together. Basically, from the time that you arrive, I have a concierge service that's going to meet you at the airport, pick you up, bring you to the retreat center where we're staying, Ephesus.
Mhm.
That's where the Mother Mary, we're going to go visit Mother Mary's house. Um, go through these sacred sites. It is just magical. The whole program was downloaded. Actually, I have a whole like a program that's going to be very powerful and interesting. So I'm very excited about that. So different retreats, pilgrimages, and I actually, this is the first time that I'm going to be doing coaching. one-on-one coaching, which is going to be a 12-month program, and I'm only taking like 10 people on for now, because it's like a whole program that was downloaded for me last 2 weeks ago or a week ago.
Amazing.
So yeah, because before that I'm always doing something with collective, lots of people, and this time it's like, no, you need to start working like one-on-one and like really create these divine pillars of light to anchor in. So I'm going to be doing that work. What else? Other retreats, other pilgrimages. I always host free meditations every Tuesday night, 9:30 Eastern. So if anybody wants to join, you're welcome. And those meditations are basically weekly, and I've been doing them since 2014. So
Amazing.
over 10 years now, every Tuesday or Thursday, once a week.
Showing your age now.
Huh?
You're showing your age now.
Oh, I love my age. I'm at the peak.
That's okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on today. It was so good. I'm going to need to take a nap after all of that, guys. There was a lot of energy moving, so go put your feet in some earth, like ground. From a personal level, I fucking love you, and I'm so grateful for you and our time together.
Love you, and happy birthday again, love.
You. Yeah. Beautiful souls. Until next time, I love you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Cracked Open. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share with a friend if this episode has served you in any way. For more information about the work that I do or to get in touch with me, read the show notes or head to beckmylonas.com. Until next time, beautiful soul.